Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. All right. Welcome to this online international seminar organized by the Department of Early Childhood Education at the Education University of Hong Kong. My name is Alfredo Bautista, and I am Associate Professor in the ECE department. And my colleague, Dr. Sanjin, also here. She and I both serve as Associate Heads of Department for Internationalization. We are actually very excited that so many international colleagues are joining us for this event today, this event that we call Interconversations, which is a series of online discussions that we are organizing so that the international early childhood education community continues to feel connected during the pandemic. So we also have in the room today our head of department, Professor Kerry Lee. Hi, Kerry. I wonder if you want to say hi to the audience today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to see so many of you from all around the world. We're very privileged to have you here. I hope you enjoy the talk this afternoon.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, so let's get started. The topic of today's session is social-emotional learning in preschool education. So as you all know, I'm sure social-emotional development, or SEL in short, is the ability to manage and understand our experience and expression of emotions and to establish positive and rewarding relationships with others. SEL involves developing self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal and social skills. So it's really a very important skill for young children. So children with better social emotional skills are more attuned to themselves and to their needs, more self-assured, and able to make connections and develop meaningful and lasting friendships. So naturally, they will be happier in schools and also more successful academically as well. So we are organizing this forum today because while the benefits of SEL are very well known, it is not so clear yet how preschool teachers and educators can help a class with 10 or 20 or sometimes even 30 children to develop social emotional skills. So particularly for children who are just beginning to develop a sense of themselves and also being separate from others. So for this session today, Sanjin and I have invited a very nice panel of speakers, including Dr. Rebecca Cheung, who is an assistant professor in our ECE department, and also who researches on mindfulness, to share tips on how mindfulness can be introduced to both preschool teachers and preschool children. And we have also invited 4 kindergarten practitioners today from different countries to share experiences and strategies related to social emotional learning at the preschool level. We will be introducing our 4 speakers later today. So as you can see on the screen, the title of the session today is Social Emotional Learning in Preschool Education, Strategies from Around the World. So just very briefly, the plan is to have very short presentations followed by a discussion and some questions and answers in a large group later on to try to exchange perspectives and to learn from one another. So we really all hope that you will enjoy the session today. Sanjin, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Alfredo. Hello, everyone. I'm Sunjin. I'm also Associate Head for Internationalization in the ECE department. We hope that you and your families are healthy and coping well in these difficult times. For today's session, we have around 250 participants registered for our session in total, and we can see that there are more than 100 participants now online in the Zoom room together with us. So So many of us are from Hong Kong and the mainland China, and also some neighboring countries and territories such as Singapore, Cambodia, India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Vietnam, also colleagues in Australia, New Zealand, and many other countries in the Middle East, America, and Africa. We want to thank you everyone for your interest and your support. It is so great to meet you virtually and to establish this connection with you.
All right, thank you very much, Sanjin. So me again. So here is the structure of our inter-conversations today, which we hope that it will last approximately 1.5 hours. So first, as I mentioned before, we will have the sharing by our colleague, Assistant Professor Dr. Rebecca Cheung, on the role of mindfulness in children's social and emotional development. And this will be followed by the sharing of 4 kindergarten practitioners who have kindly agreed to speak in this seminar and to share their experiences with us. They are Ms Mekala Weerakoon from Hong Kong. I'm really sorry because I'm sure that my pronunciations of your last name is not very accurate. Followed by Ms Christy Wong from Australia. And then we have Ms Majida Iqbal from Sri Lanka. And finally, we have Ms Claire Cen Fangmei from mainland China. So after the 4 sharings by the practitioners, we are going to have some time for questions and answers. So we hope that we are sure that many of you have comments, questions, suggestions. So please keep them until the end, and then we will have a little bit of time to interact with the presenters. All right. So yeah, so this is our structure today. So we go to the next slide. So as we mentioned already, so our first speaker today is our colleague Rebecca, who works as an assistant professor at the Department of ECE here at the Education University of Hong Kong. We can go to the next slide, Sophie, please. So Rebecca received, as you can see on the screen, Rebecca joined the university in 2014. She received her bachelor degree from Michigan State University and a PhD in developmental psychology from the University of Notre Dame in the US. Her research focuses on human development and also mental health across developmental periods. Specifically, she focuses on the role of contextual and psychological factors that shape the course of child development. Rebecca's recent work highlights mindfulness as a process associated with parents' mental well-being and also children's social-emotional development. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for agreeing to be here with us today. So the floor is yours. Please go ahead, and you can go ahead and share your screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, especially to Dr. Bautista and Dr. Sun, as well as Professor Lee, for inviting me to give this talk to everybody. I'm really thankful to be here. And I am also thankful to have a good audience joining this forum. Today, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how mindfulness is related to social emotional development among children. And before we begin, let's talk about what social emotional learning is. According to CAS, social emotional learning, SEL in short, involves major social and emotional competencies, including self-awareness. So, for example, are we aware of our emotions, our thoughts, our behaviors, and maybe our biases, potentially our prejudice, for example. Second is self-management. Can we manage our emotions? Can we regulate our emotions, behaviors, and thoughts? The third one is responsible decision-making. Can we, for example, make wholesome decisions without biases, right? The fourth one is social awareness. Are we aware of other people's feelings? Do we have empathy? or compassion? Are we aware of other people's well-being and suffering around the world? The last one is relationship skills. For example, are we able to form positive relationships with other people? Are we able to communicate with other people well, right? So these are 5 major areas of social emotional competencies. And as developmental psychologists, we tend to think about SEL across the lifespan. So SEL is not only for young children, it is also for adolescents, it's also for adults, or even older people. We're constantly evolving and developing, right? Now let's switch gears and talk a little bit about mindfulness. What is mindfulness? According to Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment. So not in the past, not in the future, but this very moment. Paying attention in the present moment on purpose and non-judgmentally, no judgment, right? It is also a non-elaborative awareness. What does that mean? It means that we aren't carried away by the stories behind the present moment, right? And accepting the sensations, thoughts, and feelings as they are. So, yeah. Previous research has found that mindfulness is related to mental health among adults. For example, when people are more mindful, they have better emotion regulation, they're more thankful, they have more gratitude, and they have better life satisfaction, better mental well-being, and fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety. And on top of that, mindfulness is relevant to children as well. There are several evidence-based, mindfulness-based SEL programs in early childhood. And after running the programs for a few months, or for a few weeks, or even for a year or two, they found that children have better emotion regulation. They also have better pro-social behavior, such as more helping behaviors, more collaborative behaviors. They also exhibit more kindness. They're kinder to their friends and families and other people. Okay, so in other words, mindfulness is relevant to children SEL. And we thought that if teachers and adults are mindful, they can serve as role models for children. They can be more present with the children as well, so that children can learn to be more present in the moment with other people. So I've given you a little bit of the background and I talked about the research. Why don't we have a few minutes and practice mindfulness together as a group? Okay, I'm gonna try to do a guided meditation with you, and it's gonna be a little bit more guided, just so people who have no experience with meditation before can easily pick up on it. Shall we get started? Find a comfortable posture so that you can allow or support yourself to be upright, relaxed, and alert. You can do this meditation sitting or standing. Gently close your eyes or keep a downward gaze, just so you aren't distracted by your surroundings. To start, let's focus on our breath. Breathing in breathing out. In, out. You may direct your attention to your nostrils and feel and sense the air coming in and out. In and out. Alternatively, you can perhaps place a hand on your belly and feel the rising and falling of each breath. Just follow your breath. Just follow the breath. At times, our attention or our mind may wander. That's simply the nature of our mind. The moment we're aware of the wandering mind, that's the moment of mindfulness. When your mind wanders, every time your mind wanders, you may gently name it by silently saying to yourself, that's thinking. That's thinking. Or to be more specific, planning. I'm planning. Fantasizing. Ruminating. That's ruminating. When we try to name our thoughts, we change our relationship with the thoughts. Notice whether the thoughts have increased, decreased, or subsided, disappeared altogether. Gentle attention back to the breath. In and out. In it's almost the end of our day. And if you're in Hong Kong or in Australia or in Asia, right? And some of us may be a little tired and our body may be a little stiff or tight right now. And the invitation is to have you invite your breathing to soften your body, the whole body, beginning with the eyebrows. Soften your eyebrows, your eyes, the jaw, and the whole face. Relax the whole face. Relax the neck and the shoulders and the back, the upper back and the lower back. the buttocks. Move your attention or the spotlight to the arms, the upper arms, elbows, the hands, and the fingers. Soften your whole arms and direct your attention back to the upper arm, to the front of your body. The chest and the belly. Soften the belly. The thighs, the knees, the calf muscles, and the shins. The ankles, and the feet, the toes, the whole legs. Breathing in, we soften and relax our body. Breathing out, we release the stiffness and the tightness of our body. In, out. In, out. Rest your attention back on the breath again. In, out. As we close, you might want to thank yourself and congratulate yourself that you spend about 5 minutes of your day to be in the moment with your breath, with your body, to be with yourself. Thank you very much. You can now open your eyes and reconnect if they're closed, and reconnect with the surroundings around you. That's the end of the meditation. And again, previous research suggests that when adults meditate about 20 minutes a day, they have better mental well-being and they're better able to relate to their stress. If you're interested in meditation or social emotional learning for children or adults, please feel free to contact me. And I'm very happy to talk to you more about this line of research and practice as well. Thank you very much. And that's my presentation for today.
Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Absolutely. Great. So let's move on now to the sharing by our 4 invited practitioners. Now I feel so relaxed that I really find it a little bit like I need to restart my brain again. Okay, so to give our friends, our audience today, we have 141 friends now connected. So to give you guys some background on how we approach the 4 invited speakers today. So this is basically what when we approach and they say what we said, this is what we said today, right? So we ask our speakers we basically gave them 3 very simple prompts, right? So we asked them to introduce themselves very briefly, to share with us what they do, where they live, where they work, etc. The second one was to share their perspectives on social emotional development and social emotional learning in their classrooms and in their schools, and also to share with us why In their view, socio-emotional development is important. And finally, we ask them to share or to demonstrate, similar to what Rebecca did today, an activity or a task or a strategy that, in their opinion, as preschool practitioners, in their opinion, contributes to foster socio-emotional development for children in their classroom, right? So, so this is what we are going to be doing from now. We are going to hear these 4 speakers sharing their own experiences, right? So Sanjin now is going to introduce the first practitioner for the day. So Sanjin, you can go ahead, please. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Our today's second speaker is Mekala Weerakoon. Mekala was born in Sri Lanka and came to Hong Kong at the age of 8, and she has been here for 40 years now. Mekala grew up in the English Schools Foundation system in Hong Kong and did her teaching degree at EdUHK in Western Australia. Her 15 years of teaching career was dedicated to children ages 3 to 6 years old. Mekala is now in her 6th year of teaching grade 2. She is a firm believer that social-emotional learning should be an essential part of every early childhood classroom, and that a happy child learns better. Mekala has 2 teenage boys, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a lizard who lives at school. She is an absolute nerd, loves to hike, swim, dance, and learn new things. Mekala, please go ahead and share your screen. The floor is yours now.
All right. Hi, everyone. So thank you very much, Rebecca, for that. I was feeling very relaxed after that. And it's a real reminder that I need to do it more in my classroom. I do it sometimes, but I need to do it more. So hi, everyone. So today I really want to talk to you a little bit about how I really feel that a happy child learns better. I think most of us instinctively know that, but there is more and more research to prove that. So young children are still forming their understanding of the world and how to interact with it in a positive and productive way. And the adults are entrusted with keeping them safe and helping them to learn. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is that emotional safety is a big part of happiness in children, and how we as practitioners can help children to feel emotionally safe in the classroom. When we don't feel safe, whether it's physically or emotionally, our brain is constantly kind of on alert, trying to look for danger and to be safe. And when our brain is in that state, it is less ready for effective learning. Without feeling accepted for simply being who we are, for just personally doing our best of what we are capable of. If we don't feel appreciated and accepted for that, we feel a sense of insecurity. We may not want to show what we know, fearing that it might not be good enough. And we know that fearing mistakes, the fear of making mistakes, is a really serious hamper on learning. Kids who don't want to make mistakes are in fear of learning, don't want to try their best or don't want to be seen in front of others. We may not feel worthy to be part of our learning community because we have nothing special to offer. Not feeling part of a community, as Rebecca was also mentioning, how important that collaborative piece is, means that they're going to miss out on that really important aspect of learning with others, teaching others, and also learning about ourselves in the context of others. On the other hand, when a child feels very safe and valued to express their thoughts and opinions and to simply try their personal best as opposed to comparing themselves to others, they become much more effective as learners. And I believe, and I think research is showing more and more, that we learn better when we're happy. So I've just summarized some of the learning out there that shows that, when we're happy and we have positive emotions, we create all these chemicals in our brain, dopamine and serotonin. And when these substances are released into the brain, they have positive effects on our memory and also the connections that we make in our brain, making more connections and helping us to make those connections faster. And there's lots of research that's showing a very positive correlation between happiness and its influence on academic success. So, there's a lot, and even instinctively, we know that, happy children, happy students learn better. So with this in mind, I just wanted to share some things that I try and do in my classroom that I feel really help to empower students, that increase their self-esteem and help them to feel a valuable part of the classroom. For starters, believe in every child. They have something to give. And when children know that we believe in them, they want to show their very best and be the best they can be. Get to know your children, their likes, their dislikes, what they do after school, about their siblings, their pets. Figure out their boundaries. Now, boundaries emotionally and otherwise are really important in being able to keep children feeling emotionally safe. Some children need very strong boundaries to feel safe. Other children need their boundaries to be loosened a little bit to feel safe. Empower students to be in charge of their learning. We're there to guide them, but they can be in charge if we give them the right tools. Highlight their strengths. Create an expert list where every child has something they're an expert on in the class and other children can go to them. We have gymnasts, we have children who know how to catch the crickets to feed the lizard, all sorts of things. And everyone is on the list, they have something to give. Figure out their learning style. This is obviously very important to adjust instruction, style, and the tools needed to cater for all the learning needs of the children in the classroom. And another thing is to give as much choice as possible, right? The more choice you give students, the more control you give them over their lives, because adults are always controlling their lives. So this increases the ways in which they can show how they're responsible. And when they do that, you empower them, and that gives them the self-esteem to try even harder and increases their potential for learning. So this is all about really building positive relationships, meeting them where they're at, and also making it fun. So a few more classroom tips. And this is about really creating that sense of community and little things that you can do and put around the classroom that help to empower students and make them feel happy and safe. Create your rules together. Get the students to tell you what things are important to them in the classroom. We do this every year, and they come up with, you don't need to come up with anything of how children have to behave in the classroom. They will come up with everything that's necessary, and sometimes more, and you'll get a real peek into who they are as learners and what they need. Give them daily responsibilities. I think this is super important because it helps them to feel responsible and to show what they can do. And increasingly, we can give them more responsibility, and we can do less, which is what we want to try and achieve. Make the classroom their learning home, not the teacher's class. Give them lots of access to everything. Nothing should be off limits. It should be just, if you know how to use it properly, you can use it. As I said before, use a variety of learning tools and strategies. There should be no punishment in any classroom, but especially in an early childhood one. It should be natural consequences for your behavior, because you are to benefit from the consequences. It's not about the teacher being able to manage the classroom. Be emotionally available to talk about their academic issues, about their emotional issues. Let them know that you're always there for them and they can talk to you. I like to let the children have a reflective journal. So they all have a journal and they can draw in it, they can write in it anytime they want to about anything. They can share it or not share it. I just encourage them to go there to really sound out their emotions if they don't want to do it with someone. And I find that having a class pet is one of the best things you can do in a classroom. It opens the door to students just going and sharing themselves in a way that they might not do with other children or the teacher. It gives way to giving responsibilities, connecting with just another living being in a way that children might not initially do with others, and gives you a doorway into understanding them better as just a human being, really. And ongoing reflections and goal setting that they can do so that they learn who they are as a learner, and they can set goals and they can really become those people who are in charge of their own learning. So that's a little bit. I hope that was helpful. And just to say that, yeah, I really do believe that a happy child learns better, and we can have so much more fun when the children in our class are feeling safe and happy. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mekala. I'm sure that all your tips are quite very helpful, and I'm sure that you are a very good teacher and have very good relationship with your students. So today we are going to have our next speaker, who is Ms Christy Wong from Australia. Christy Wong acquired her master's degree in early childhood education from Monash University. She has 2 years of work experiences in several long-day care services and the sessional kindergarten kindergartens. Using her background in music, Christy incorporated piano playing and storytelling in her teaching career. She's passionate about children's social emotional learning, as well as providing them with positive behavior support. Today, Christy works for a global company in Australia that provides young children with fun and open-ended learning environments that embrace creativity and self-confidence. So Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for Ms. Mac as well for sharing. And now I want to talk about emotions and play, especially for preschoolers. So I wanted to highlight that play is the natural way that children learn and develop. Why do I put this quote is because play is very important for all areas of preschoolers development, especially the emotional development. And through play, preschoolers can practice managing strong emotions such as excitement, anger, and frustrations. And I'll elaborate more in the few slides. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Christy, and I have 2 years of experience in being a kindergarten teacher, and currently I'm working for Wilson's Road Early Learning Center, and it's bought by a company called BCBs, and it's a long day care center in Australia. And the pedagogy that we use is always play-based. So in the photo, you can see, this is just an example. This is our daily classroom setting. You can see there are different learning experiences set up according to the children's interests and also our program, our intentional teaching programs. So it can be changed every day and every week. If the children get bored, we change the table setting straight away to suit their learning abilities. And apart from the classroom, we always have the outdoor yard, a large outdoor yard ready for children to play, to let out their emotions throughout the day, so they can choose either to learn indoor or outdoor. For me, as a kindergarten teacher in Australia, I think that social emotional learning is very important because of a few reasons. So one of it is one of the 5 outcomes of the Victorian Early Years Learning and Development Framework. We call it the FELDEF, that we have to follow and get ready to children to go to school the next year. And you can see that outcome 3 is to have children to have a strong sense of well-being. So this is one of the guidelines that we have to follow as a teacher in Victoria. Apart from that, it's always about their self-awareness and self-management, which include the children to identify and recognize their emotions. And apart from that, they can regulate their emotions to handle stress, anxiety, and to express their emotions appropriately. Apart from that, it will be about their social skills and relationship skills. So when they're able to identify their own emotions, they can understand how other children and also adults, for example, their parents, their close families, and also the other teachers, feelings, and then they can help them to get along with other people easily. So maintaining healthy relationship based on the resistance to constructively resolve the conflicts, such as taking turns, sharing toys and resources in the classroom, it's very important for young children. Last but not least, but children will feel happier if they know about the importance of the social emotional about themselves, because they can cope better with problems when they learn to understand and manage their emotions. When they can recognize and talk about strong emotions, they are less likely to express these emotions through challenging behaviors such as tantrums. So I'm here to share some of my strategies and activities that we use in daily lives to help children with their social emotional learning. For some of the strategies, I would say we have to, as a teacher, we have to initiate warm and reciprocal relationship with the children to make them feel safe and make them feel that you're the one that you can talk to, who can share the emotions, to believe that you can actually help them in their learning. Next is to provide them a safe and stimulating environment. As I said, that children may get bored very easily. So we have to have lots of resources and strategies ready in in the classroom, to change the table settings, to change the format of teaching to suit their learning abilities. And also to acknowledge each child's uniqueness in a positive ways. For the wordings that we use as a teacher is always have to be really positive, and we also have to focus on what they can do instead of what they can't do. Some of the activities that I used in the classroom before is to act out feelings with puppets. The children really like it because they can make it according to their abilities, and also they're using their creativities. So they can use different resources, their fine motor skills to make different puppets. From then we can do a little dramatic play, and also, as I said, I'll play the piano. So I'll play the piano music in the background, and they can then dancing, singing songs, and using their puppets that they made. Also, we use creative arts such as painting, drawing in the outdoor area, and making Play-Dohs that allowed them to make different emotions and facial expressions. For some of the children who have like additional needs, like who may not be able to use their verbal communication skills very well, they can use this as a way to express their emotions. And lastly, we also introduce meditation in our classroom daily to allow children having a break in the middle of the day for 5 to 10 minutes to lie down on the cushion, to listen to music, and also some meditation stories. Yeah, and that's the end of my presentation. So I want to say that play really gives children a chance to explore emotions and express them in different ways, including words. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Christy, for your presentation on cultivating children's social emotional learning through play. And I do like the idea of using puppets and creative arts. That is very useful. Today, our fourth speaker is Ms Majida Iqbal. Majida is currently employed as a lead preschool teacher at Little Me EdUHK in Sri Lanka. She has experience educating young learners in dedicated preschool centers. Fresh out of high school, Majida already knew that she wanted to be a preschool teacher and started her journey volunteering in community preschools in Colombo. She is a qualified Montessori practitioner after completing the International Diploma in Montessori Method of Education, awarded by the Modern Montessori International London in 2018. Majida, you can go ahead and start your sharing.
I'm glad to participate in this resourceful event and to learn by getting into the shoes of preschool teachers in different countries. As a mother, I still remember the day when I was looking for a preschool to get admission for my daughter. When looking for a preschool, the first thing that came to my mind was socialization. I hope most of the parents must be thinking the same way. We all agree that children who are rich in social and emotional skills are the better performers. We can establish and maintain positive and strong relationships, even with all the children and others. For example, kids in my classroom or my own kids always want to discuss their feelings and emotions. But social and emotional learning is more than just expressing emotions. In my slide, I'm going to list down why they should become independent. But I assure you the list isn't limited to this slide. The first reason to become independent is to interact with children. They want to know how to express themselves, to understand others' expression. They understand empathy when dealing with feelings. Secondly, they must become independent to engage in meaningful relationships. Then child communication is crucial for making connections and building relationships. Last but not least, self-control. According to different studies, the first 6 years of the young mind are the time that develops child's brain significance. Social skills have a major impact on self-control. Through interaction and relationship children will be able to control their emotions. According to the Montessori theory, a classroom environment is free to let the children do things on their own. They are free to choose their own activity. As Montessori practitioners, our job is to guide them to do their own activity in the correct way. This is the first step to guide them to become independent. Montessori environment creates the path to become more independent. Dr. Maria Montessori introduced the theory by emphasizing social and emotional learning. In my classroom, I would like to arrange simple activities with my children. For example, talking about emotions. We must encourage them to volunteer and speak. I love listening to them. In this activity, every kid will share their emotions one by one, including myself. We can feel the difference after endorsing each and every child. They will learn to listen and not to talk when others are in a conversation. Through this discussion, they will learn how to build a healthy conversation. I don't want to limit this specific practice within a session. I'd like to talk to them throughout the day about emotion and expression. When they are doing something else, when they are busy, we can show them how to ask questions. Maintain eye contact while speaking or listening. Also, we can show them how to interrupt between a conversation. Throughout the session, it's all about complimenting for sharing their thoughts and praising them for handling emotions. I'm attached to this session more than anything because it also gives us the opportunity to teach them to deal with hard feelings. Through Montessori methods of education, we raise self-confidence by making the child independent and strengthening leadership skills. As a preschool teacher in a developing country like Sri Lanka, the focus on social and emotional learning is not sufficient enough. Most preschools are privately owned and access to affordable childcare is very limited. We have seen some development in early childhood education, but there is much more to be done. Various social organizations are constantly working towards standardizing preschool education systems here. But we all agree that social skills or SEL is an important task to be achieved in life, right? But most preschools in Sri Lanka are not ready to utilize the opportunity to do so. They are comfortable with the old traditional methods. Primarily, they are focusing only on academic learning. So to make things worse, preschool framework in Sri Lanka is not regulated to a good extent. It is regulated, but not regulated to a good extent. Not standard enough to resource technical guidance across the country. We don't have a separate curriculum or resource guidance to implement social skills among children. So qualified preschool teachers play a crucial and more challenging part in guiding these young, beautiful minds towards their improved action. The ultimate goal is to help all the children to grow and learn to their potential. I think it's time for me to conclude my presentation. So at last, I would like to say developing social and emotional learning is a never-ending process. So helping children to learn social skills requires repeated and intentional practice. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Thank you, Majida, for your presentation using Montessori approach, supporting children's social emotional learning. And you also introduce your practices in your country, which is very helpful and inspiring. So our fifth and the last speaker today is Ms Claire Cen Fangmei. Ms. Claire has 6 years of kindergarten teacher experiences and 4 years of kindergarten management experiences. She completed her master's degree in early childhood education at the University of Hong Kong. After that, she worked 3 years in a public kindergarten as a principal in Shenzhen, China. Now she's an EDD student at the Education University of Hong Kong. In fact, her supervisor is a fellow. So her research focused on teaching, learning, and professional development and the curriculum. Claire, it's your time. You can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's very happy to join this seminar, and I'm going to share some practice of social emotional learning in a public kindergarten in Shenzhen. And there are 4 parts of my presentation. Number 1, why SEL matters in our kindergarten. Number 2, social emotional practice activities in our kindergarten. Number 3, environment supports on social emotional learning. And last, work with parents. And there are several reasons I think promoting social emotional learning in our kindergarten is very necessary. Firstly, we think that when children take their first step in a lifelong journey of learning, not only will they begin to build foundational skills that will pave the road for academic success, but they will also learn social emotional skills like kindness, sharing, and self-regulation that will contribute to their overall success of life. In addition, China has a very long history of a one-child policy, and government implemented 2-child policy in 2016, introduced 3-child policy in 2021. But most families only have 1 or 2 children due to the policy and high pressure of raising a child in a big city like Shenzhen. And therefore, children have less opportunity to interact with other children compared to the big family. And thirdly, very interesting program, there more than 50% of the family involve the grandparents. Taking care of the children in Shenzhen. Seems most moms only have 6 months maternity leave, and most parents have full-time job. But we found that the grandparents are lack of scientific method to support the social emotional learning, and they still use the old way to educate the grandchild. And we also found that some parents lack skills and strategies to support SEL learning, SEL for children, and some parents don't value the importance of SEL. And we've also found some young children who enter the kindergarten without sufficient social emotional skills at their age level. Therefore, for this reason, it is particularly meaningful to carry out social emotional activity in our kindergarten. And here are some our favorite social emotional activities we use in our kindergarten. For example, the teachers use different colors to teach the students identify their emotion. And in addition, children use 6 steps of conflict solving skills to support children deal with fights and conflicts. And gradually, children learn to solve such challenge by their own. And in our kindergarten, we implement the theme-based curriculum, and there are some interesting topics the teachers do to support children social emotional learning, such as helping hands, making friends, and learning about the different faces. And in terms of the environments, teachers set up the learning environments to support SEL, and there are tons of children's books featuring interesting main characters and storylines that teach social emotional skills. And our teacher provide storybooks related to SEL in the reading corner, and so that teacher can read the story for them, or children can do the self-reading. And also each of the column we have 1 mirror, because we want the children to know their the facial expression when they have different emotion. And the children provide materials for the teacher provide the materials for children to do the painting, as this is very good activities for them to express the emotion. And stress ball, sponge are providing in a basket in each classroom, and the students can squeeze when they feel stress. And in each classroom, we set up quiet area, private place, and comfortable place for children, because we think it's important for them when they feel upset, angry, depressed, and they want to spend some time alone. And last but not the least, and we think providing the workshop for parents very important, because this is not just for young or inexperienced parents, and it's also for everyone who want to be the better parents. And we provide like the different workshop for parents every semester, and social emotion learning workshop is one of the popular topic. And the parents of new students need to attend workshop called Adapting New School Life. After attending this workshop, parents will know the strategy to support children to adapt the school life, and they know what to do when their children feel depressed and have difficult emotion when they go to school. And we also provide like conflict solving strategy workshop, as some parents really don't know what to do when children have conflicts. And after attending this workshop, they know how to support children solve the conflicts, and they also can help the children to manage the emotion. Lastly, we also have the reading club. And this is one of the favorite activities in our kindergarten. And the parents usually decide to read one book together, and they share what they have read once a month. And parents found it interesting because reading club can provide opportunity for them to share parenting experience and also learn new strategies. Yeah, and this is all my presentations today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Claire. See, this is my stress ball. So I also use it to squeeze it when I feel stressed. Okay, so now it's already 6:10. We have 20 minutes for Q&A, and I've seen that there are a lot of questions raised in the chat room. So maybe we can address those questions first, right? So there's some interesting conversations in the chat room about using puppets, right? So Christy, can you help elaborate a little bit more about how we can using puppets in our classroom to support children's social emotional learning?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So puppets really like a popular choice in the kindergarten classroom. So for example, when we're doing a storytelling that week, we have the book of the week. So we read the storybook once, and then we will place the puppets that we had to set at a corner, place the book there, and then put the puppets next to the book. So actually children can use the puppets to do storytelling, to retell the story, to negotiate their roles with other children. If it's in terms of like social emotional, they can have a space available for them all the time to make their own puppets, including when they're happy that day, if they're sad that day. And yeah, that's very helpful in terms of like social emotional learning, and also for the children who are really interested in like that kind of play throughout the day while they're feeling sad, they don't want to talk, or some of the people like they have delay in speech, they're too shy to talk. So yeah, that's the other example for puppet play. Sometimes we have to set up a stage, a mini stage for them to perform to gain their confidence. Yeah.
So it's more like dramatic play, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There was a question related to assessment, and I thought that probably Rebecca could answer that question, right? So there was a person in the audience asking about how can we assess the development of social and emotional skills. So I wonder if you would like to share any tips, Rebecca?
Yeah, when it comes to early childhood, do you still remember let me share screen, the very first slide of my presentation.
Sure. So
if we could still remember that there are 5 major areas of social emotional competencies by Castle. These 5 areas, there are definitely measures, right? Questionnaire measures that teachers can fill out to assess children's self-awareness, management, decision-making, and relationship skills, right? But most of the measures typically are for children in middle childhood or adolescence. For little kids, there aren't very many scales or measures that the teachers can easily fill out to assess their SEL competencies. So typically, to assess, let me stop sharing. To assess children's SEL, some of the researchers, for example, they would use indicators of emotional and behavioral problems as assessments to address their behavioral adjustment or emotional adjustment. Other researchers would use social competence measures or some of the child tasks to assess their behavioral regulation, self-regulation, and helping behaviors. So there are definitely tasks out there that measures children's level of social, emotional, and behavioral competence. Meanwhile, there aren't very many questionnaire-based measures for teachers to easily fill out. I hope I addressed the question well. Thank you.
Sanjin, do you want to go next?
Okay, there's another question for Mekala. It says that, could you please explain more how children can have explain or talk about their journal?
Sure. So I can give a specific example of a student that I had in a previous year who did not talk very much at all. There was a high level of self-mutism, especially in the classroom. And this child was very playful and quite loud outside at recess time, but in the previous years in a classroom had been very, very quiet. She definitely exhibited signs of having a fear of being in front, talking about herself in front of others or sharing in any way. So what I did with her was she had her personal journal and we would go out together on the balcony in the mornings. And I would start with just things like, why don't you draw me a picture of how you feel at school? And then she would draw a picture and I'd say, would you like to share it with me? And she would, show to the different parts and tell her, this is me on the playground and I feel really happy. This is me in the classroom. And I'd say, you look very small in the classroom. She goes, yeah, that's how I feel in the classroom. And I'd say, tell me a little bit more about that. When do you feel really small? When do you feel big? Why do you feel, why do you look really happy and active in the playground? So over several days and over weeks, I just gave her that space to just share her journal with me because that felt like a kind of a safe space. So she wasn't talking to me, she was sharing with me what was written down, because she was quite open to sharing her writing with me, for example, but she didn't want to speak directly as such. So that journal kind of acts as a vehicle that's allows the child to express themselves in a way that's safe. So they know that they can say whatever they need to or want to, that they don't feel safe or they don't feel able to communicate verbally sometimes with someone else on that piece of paper. And then it allows them a space from which to actually interpret for themselves how they're feeling and to then communicate that with someone else. So it can be used in so many ways, but that's just a little highlight of how to use it, maybe with one particular student, for example. It can be a great way of getting kids to just give, to get a temperature of how they're feeling if everybody wants to just draw a picture and just kind of share it or have it out there on their table. If they want to share it, it's a way of kind of quickly going around saying, oh, he doesn't look very happy today by his picture, or, oh, these kids are looking their usual self, coloring and doing lots of colors, whatever it is. So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. There's another comment here in the chat talking about the idea. This is for Claire. Claire, there is a comment about the idea of the mirror. Someone really liked your strategy of using a mirror. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you use that strategy in your classroom and in what kinds of situations or in what kinds of circumstances would you use it?
Okay, thank you. So the idea of mirror is come from the radio. I think I visited a radio school a couple of years ago, and one of the teachers shared this social emotional learning practice about mirror. That's why I decided to use a mirror in our kindergarten, in our classroom. And for the situation we use the mirror is sometimes the student have different emotions, and the teacher will let the children to watch their face, see their face, how it looks like when they feel angry, when they feel happy. They have different social expressions. Yeah, this is very useful tool for them to identify their emotions. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. There's one thing, one or two of the presenters mentioned at some point that you also use meditation, right? So at least Christy mentioned meditation, and which is what we have done also today with in the beginning with Rebecca. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, could you give us more details on how, because with adults it sounds like relatively easier. Could you give us a little bit more information on how you would do this with children, how long it will be, what kinds of things would you say to help them to pay attention to their bodies, concentrate in similar to what Rebecca did in the different parts of the body, etc. How is your experience? Anybody can go, because I know that some different presenters talked about it, so anybody can go.
So I think I can go first. I incorporated meditation in my daily program for about a year. So it takes a bit of time for children to really get used to the routine, because they like running around, they're doing different activities in the classroom. So when it comes to meditation time, is usually after lunchtime. So after that, we'll turn off all the lights, starting to play meditation music, ask them to pack up the room and provide them one cushion each. So they'll find a space that they like to lie down on the mat. And then from there, we'll talk about playing meditation story. So that's using their own interests. And then from there, we'll ask them to lie down, listen to the music, listen to the story, like check out your breathing. And then sometimes we do the breathing exercises with them, let them to get used to it. And then usually we start from like 5 minutes or so. But after that, we can extend it to about 15 to 20 minutes. So one time we also use an activity to put small stone or small object on their forehead to say that let's play a game to see if the object is still on your forehead at the end of the meditation, you get a sticker. And then they got very excited and really interested in that activity. So I think it's really successful.
This is great. Thank you so much. Majida, I think you also mentioned a little bit also this kind of strategies. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, we used to, I do actually, we have a Montessori time, like around, once they arrived into school, we'll have a Montessori time with them. So during the time, we'll let them work with materials. So they can choose their own activity, whatever they want, they will choose their activity and they will sit and do their activity. While during the activity, I'll talk to them and I'll ask, how about the day? How do you came to school? With whom you came to school? And we'll just discuss their, their feelings. How do they feel it during in the morning? And after the snack time, most of the children get hyper after the snack. So we used to talk about after the snack time, how do they feel? Are they still they came to school or not? And as same as when they go, before they go home, we used to discuss again their feelings. how do they feel? What about they did in school? The day was, how about the day? And how did they enjoy, or what happened? So if there is anything they don't like, so I will change the routine from the next day itself to make them feel free to work with us. So I think that's the thing. That's the one trick I will follow every day in my class.
Great. Thank you so much, Majida, for sharing. And I, in my own research, actually, I have a little bit of experience also running this kind of activity with children. And I agree with you that it's really important to think carefully when you exactly do it, because especially after children have been like very hyper and really moving around, they need like a period of like slowly going down. And it's good to plan activities to bring them their bodies down slowly until finally you can run an activity that allows them to relax and focus on their bodies. And also in the beginning, when we started doing this activity, it was hard for them to concentrate, but this is a learning process. So after practicing, practice makes perfect. So in the end, after a few days of practice, they would do it. All right, so it is now. Sorry.
All right.
Go ahead, Rebecca, please.
Perhaps I can add
yes.
A few more things. So I don't typically go into the kindergarten classrooms to teach little kids, but sometimes I do. And oftentimes I would bring a mindfulness bell and I would be like, to catch their attention, and then have them do mindful breathing using very simple gestures, like breathing in, breathing out, like a lotus flower, breathing in. You can also use Hoberman ball and then breathing out like that. And there are also other mindfulness and gratitude meditations that some people use. So this is just something that I'd like to share, because like the meditation we did was for adults because they're more like for older people, but with younger kids, we need to make it shorter and we need to make it a little bit more fun just so they can stay focused.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Rebecca, Mekala, Christy, Majida, and Claire. Thanks to the 5 of you for sharing with us today, for all of your tips and all of your presentations. So anyway, so we would like to thank Sanjin and I and in the internationalization team. We would like to thank Sophie very, very much for her help, because she has really done a lot of work in coordinating for this session today. So thanks so much for your time. It was wonderful to see you here today, and hope to see you in the next interconversations. All right.
Thank you for all, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.